One of the things that's sort of being emphasised by the new national curriculum is the idea of making the key learning goals at each stage clearer. Now, can I explain what I mean by that? This is what the standard for level 4 that includes comments about fractions looks like. And then this is level 5. So that's intended to be the end of year 8. Now, I don't expect you really to read it, but I guess what I'm saying is I don't believe that that helps find out what the key issues are. Now, this is what the sequence of learning fractions is, in my view. Definitions in language is the first thing. Equivalence, rational numbers, addition, subtraction, converting, comparing, fractions as an operator, multiplication, division. And that's all you need to know. That's what if the kids haven't done equivalence, it's no good talking about rational numbers. If they haven't done rational numbers, they can't talk about addition and subtraction. And so it actually gives you a way of planning the fractions curriculum. That's what. Oh well, that's sort of that's along the side here somewhere. That was the thing I couldn't understand about this school I was in yesterday, where the kids were actually they're doing these really complicated differentiation and finding local minimums and differentiating cubics. And if they got to something like 4 times 3, they'd get out this calculator that cost like $300 or something. And so they get out some calculator that they had to press about 20 buttons to get, and it just sort of really, you sort of it just seemed to be shocking to see these kids who are really advanced maths kids doing that. Okay. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Now you've actually had a look at that one. The definition is, the reason I've got that is because if the kids know that a fraction is a certain number of equal parts, if they know that, they're not going to have problems with this question. If they know that. Now they should have done that from about grade 2 onwards. Okay, that they don't.
That's why I think it's wrong. You can't necessarily see that those are equal parts.
Oh, okay. Well, it's actually, in fact, you'd imagine that they should have not had that line and they should have had that line, and then it would have been a little bit better. Yeah, no, that's a good point, actually. No one's actually.
That's why we made it hard. That's why we thought it was hard. We couldn't choose between 1 and 4.
I think they're probably leaning towards this one as just a sort of a better elaboration of it or something. I'm not sure of it. But theoretically, that shouldn't be that hard a question for the kids in Year 7, given they really have done fractions for 3 or 4 years already. Now, I'm sort of not doing these. I'm going to talk about 4 templates, and I'm not going to do them in the right order, only because I need some stuff from the first bit I'm going to do for one of the other bits. But this is a template that applies to games. So I'm going to teach you a game. Now this is a game that especially people who've heard me talk will have heard before, but I'm going to teach it to you again because this isn't the game we're going to play. We're going to play a different game, but I need to teach you this one first. It's called Race to 10, and you start at 0, and you can either add on 1 or 2, and the person who says 10 is the winner. I feel like changing the game to a game that we say race to 2, starting at 0, counting by a fifth or 2/5. But we're actually going to skip over that because that game's too easy. We're going to play this game here. This is called Race to 3. You start at 0 and you can add on a quarter or a half, but you always have to say the thing in its lowest common terms. So, like in the football, we have quarter time, then we have half time. We don't have 2 quarter time, we have half time. So I want you to say half, I don't want you to say 2 quarters when you're playing this. Okay, can you play that now please with the person next to you? Would someone like to challenge me to a game? Would someone like to, I want to play a game with someone just in public. Who'd like to play a game? Okay, well, you go first. You go first. 3 quarters. 1 and a half. 2 and a quarter. Okay, so because so whether say 2 and a half or 2 and 3 quarters, I'm going to be able to say 3. So the point about that game, it's actually got a winning strategy to do that. Now, let's think about it for a bit. As if we were going to do this, what questions can we now answer? Well, we can answer 1 and a half plus a quarter. We know how to do that. We could probably even answer 1 and a half plus 3 quarters. Not because we added 3 quarters, but because we had to think about that to do that. And maybe we could even do 1 and a half minus 3 quarters. So once we've played the game, we can actually do some quite hard questions to do that. And you might say, oh, well, that's, halves and quarters. Well, in fact, we don't need actually that much more than halves and quarters. But let's say we played a different game. And you can work out how to play this. This is a different game. It's got completely different rules. It's called Race to 3. And you can add on a 1/6 or a 1/3. And the person who says 3 is the winner. But you always have to say the fraction in its lowest common terms. So you can't say 2/6, you have to say 1/3. Can you play that with the person next to you? You might need to use your pen and paper. Now, I hope you can see that what's happened here is really quite quickly we've got onto a very complicated game. And it's actually dealing with the essence of the issues with fractions. And so you could see that if we now started asking, if we spent some time on that and sort of said, well, okay, what's a 6 plus a 1/3? The kids would say, oh, that's a half. They could get it. By the way, this is just a thing on the side. And this, we're talking about actually having a little numeracy warm-up at the start. One of the things that you can think about doing is doing stuff that people do together. Now, we don't do enough of what people used to do, is just saying stuff. So what I want you to do is we're going to count by quarters. Now I'll start, we're going to say, so a quarter, a half, like that. So I'll say 1, 2, 3, and let's count together. So a quarter, a half, 3 quarters, 1. 1 and a quarter, 1 and a half, 1 and 3 quarters, 2. 2 and a quarter, 2 and a half, 2 and 3 quarters, 3. 3 and a quarter, 3 and a half, 3 and 3 quarters, 4. Now, that's actually an exercise which includes everybody, but they start to say, oh, I hadn't thought about that before, there's a sort of a pattern thing happening. Okay, just to show you what I mean, because that probably didn't make sense to you, what we're going to do now is we're going to count in 6ths together. So we're going to go like a 1/6, a 1/3, a half, like that, to do that. So that's how we're going to count in 6ths. So you ready? We're going to do this together. Here we go. A 1/6, a 1/3, a half, 2/3, 5, 6, 1. 1 and a 6, 1 and a 1/3, 1 and a half, 1 and 2/3, 1 and 5, 6, 2. 2 and a 6, 2 and a 1/3, 2 and a half, 2 and 2/3, 2 and 5, 6, 3. 3 and a 6, 3 and a 1/3, 3 and a half, 3 and 2/3, 3 and 5, 6, 4. Okay, so you can sort of see that we can start really quite quickly with this thing. We can start to move into quite sophisticated fractions. Now, of course, you don't have to go that fast. You're just trying to get the kids a handle on the fact, oh, these fractions aren't so hard. We can actually do them. Okay. Now, I'm now going to show you the template for lessons that might be based around that.